Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition, episode 51 of Sitting
Woo!
Courtside. Just like the first 50 episodes, my name is Dante.
And of course, it's your boy Jerry D here, man.
Another week, another episode of Sitting Courtside, your guys' favorite basketball podcast. Today,
I
we are
hope.
going to be giving you part two. I hope we're going to be giving a part two of our series of what teams need to do to contend or be competitive once again. So, like last week, we have 10 teams this week. We're going to each go one by one and give three reasons why we believe, or give three things that we believe these teams need to do to contend, become competitive again. And then at the end, we'll touch on a few other minor topics. We're almost at the start of training camp. Off season is almost over. So it's kind of a slow news cycle right now. But over the next few weeks, we'll have things pick up. We'll be getting to some juicier topics, all that good stuff. But right now, Jerry, I say we jump into our first team. I'm going to be going first here. I have the Orlando Magic, who made it.
No,
Jerry, you
yeah.
are the Orlando Magic.
Okay,
I
yeah.
have the team after that. You are starting it, Jerry. Excuse me, I got all confused for a second, guys.
All
Sorry.
good. Hey, you know what? You're just excited. You're
I'm
excited.
just excited. That's all. I'm just excited to talk some ball, baby.
That's right. Okay, well, I will kick us off with the Orlando Magic here. So the three things I got. Number one, establish Franz's role. Like it's kind of weird to me how they use him. Because I get he's technically like the small forward and Paolo runs the four. They're both 6'10". They're both really talented, but there's times like last season, we kind of saw him get phased out of the offense. I know he still had a very good, solid year for him, especially it was his best year as a pro. But allow him to know that, hey, you're our number two option. But I think it's even better if he's possibly the three. I don't really like all the pressure for just him and Paolo to create the offense because they both kind of do similar things, but Paolo does it better. So I'm trying to like find a vision if I'm Jamal Mosley, the head coach there, of like, where do I want Franz to be at in this offense? Secondly, Jalen Suggs needs to take a major step up. I just talked about them getting another star player, or at least somebody to kind of take that scoring pressure off. Jalen Suggs is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Let's see him take this step up with his offensive game. We saw what he was able to do in Gonzaga, carry that offense at times. He gets to Orlando, very much a utility guy, kind of takes that spot over Cole Anthony because he's so versatile. Now I want to see you average 16 to 20 points a game or something like that. That's the type of step I think Suggs need to take so that the Orlando Magic could also go further on. Lastly, allow the young talent to make mistakes and grow. I think Paolo definitely put a lot of pressure on them over this Fanatics Fest, like I think last weekend, where he said in the next 5 years, he wants to see a championship for himself, possible MVP and one of the faces of the league.
Finals MVP, all that stuff. Yep.
And, dream big, kid. Why not? You definitely should if you're a professional athlete, not just in basketball. So I think it's important to note, Paulo's not even 25 yet. He's not even 23 yet.
Very young.
Super young. The whole team, Jalen Suggs, a young player. Franz, a young player. Wendell Carter. Like, these guys are really freaking young. Cole Anthony. Like, the whole team is Tristan De Silva. I like they draft pick this year. Everybody's so young for the most part. Your veterans are now
still 21 years old. I just fact checked it. So
yeah. Like it's very much like, hey, you don't have to take an OKC kind of jump or a Minnesota Timberwolves kind of jump because those teams are probably built a little better than what you guys are. But you're in the East and you could make some noise. But let's not expect these guys to consistently be a top three team in the East every year. I hope they are for their sake, but I think there's not as much pressure on them. We're not talking about Orlando coming out the Eastern Conference or anything like that. And we probably won't for a little while. So let's just, calm down, smell the roses, let it bloom naturally and see what happens. But that's my three.
Yeah, no, I think this team could be like a slow burn. Like you're in no rush to build this team up. You have so many young pieces that if you give them the time to properly build, to grow together, gel together, you could see like comparing it, but like a Celtics thing where it's like you took the bumps and stuff. It took you years to get to where you want to be, but eventually you reach the mountaintop, and that's a situation the Magic could be in a few years. I agree. Franz Wagner, I think it's kind of like, is he the second option? Is
It's
he,
weird.
sometimes he might be the first option, or is he going to be a guy that is better suited as a third option? I say either give him the confidence to be like, you are our number two option. That's how we see you like moving forward, or you go out and get another. I want to say star player, but another like all-star caliber player because you
Yeah,
have enough young pieces where you can do all that. And I think they did make some good signings, some big signings this offseason, but I still believe I believe that they were going to be a team that were going to be, really in the trade market looking to make a splash there, and I still think they can.
for
Jalen
sure.
Suggs taking a step up too. I think that's huge for their guard position, especially on the defensive end. And if you said like he averages like 15, 16, 17 a game, that could help, take some pressure off of Paulo and Wagner as well. So I think him stepping up, maybe he becomes the third guy. I think,
I hope so.
the sky's the limit for someone like him as a two-way player, and he could potentially, instead of them going out and getting a star caliber player, he could, turn into that all-star caliber player.
The
So
Drew Holiday, the Derek White mold, like just follow
yeah,
it down to a T.
100%. Yeah, and they have a lot of guys on this team that have potential to take those leaps and be those caliber type players. So yeah, I think the Magic are in a good spot. And they made it to Game 7, the first round last year against Cleveland. So
Yeah.
they have experience. So they're getting better and better. Now the team that I have, uh, before I got all mixed up earlier, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers here, the team that did beat them in Game 7 last season. So the three things I have here are more developments from Mobley and Garland. I think one of the biggest things, especially Garland, he's shown that he can be a starting caliber point guard. He can stand his own next to Donovan Mitchell. I think the biggest one is Mobley because he is a guy that I think some people expect him to be a little bit further on at this point in
Yeah.
his career than he is right now. He's still very young,
Absolutely.
still has plenty of time to get better and work on, whatever he does. But he needs to take a major leap this year. He needs to have an all-star caliber season. We saw some flashes, throughout the season and the postseason last year, but they really need to, make Mobley a consistent part of the offense. And Donovan Mitchell is your number one, but Mobley needs to take that next step, and hopefully he can step into that number two role because he's an important part of their future and their success. So expect a big season out of him. Staying healthy, they had a handful of injuries all of last year. Donovan Mitchell missing the rest of the playoffs last year against the Celtics. If Donovan Mitchell isn't healthy, they're not winning anything. They could put together a really good team around him, but if he's not there out there with them, they did have a few games against Boston that he wasn't playing. That seemed like they stayed on the Celtics level and they were staying competitive, but without Mitchell, they don't go that far. And staying with Mitchell, I think if the Cavaliers want to be a championship team, he needs to be an MVP. I'm not saying has to be. I say he has to be an MVP. He needs to be in contention to win MVP. He doesn't have to win it, but he needs to have an
Top
MVP
10,
like
top
season
10 guy. Top 10 guy.
minimum. I'd say even top 5. I think he's capable of it. I think he really is capable of it in the Eastern Conference as well. I think he can be a leader. In the past, I've kind of been harsh on him, saying I don't think he can lead a team, this and that. I think he has it in him. With those other guys stepping up around him like Mobley and Garland, and Mitchell having his best season, I think that's the best chance they have of winning a championship.
Yeah, I'm a start from the bottom up here. I think Donovan Mitchell definitely is the key to everything that they do, right? He decided to re-up with them. He decided to re-sign, stay there a few more extra years, even though everybody anticipated he'd want to go to New York or go to Brooklyn or whatever. So
Right.
you're the guy. Okay, cool. Show us what you got then. You're not the king, but we got to see if you could be somewhat even close to what the king had. So the keys are yours. So definitely agree with that. Staying healthy is that could be a point for every single team that was
Right.
bitten by the bug, right? Like
Right.
it's imperative that if you guys want to have some type of shot out east to dethrone the Celtics, take out the Knicks, take out the Sixers or whatever, you got to come with your best. So if you don't have Jared Allen, if you don't have Evan Mobley ready, if you don't have Darius Garland, you're not going anywhere. So that's huge. And yeah, more developments for Mobley and Garland. I saved this for last for a reason because I think this is what I'm going to really rant on a little bit. I am very disappointed with the types of steps that we've seen out of Evan Mobley, or lack thereof, probably is a better term. mainly because this is the guy coming out of the draft where everybody's like, oh yeah, he's a less vocal Kevin Garnett. And at the time, I was like, where the hell? What are you guys watching?
Where's that? Yeah, where's that comparison coming
Like, I get it. It's another every lengthy defender that could block shots and possibly guard multiple positions. They dubbed them the next KG from that 4 or 5 spot. Because they did the same thing to Anthony Davis, but he did a lot better of a job living up to that standard than what we've seen at Mobley at this point in his career. So that's the guy I'm really disappointed on. Darius Garland. This was a guy that I could still possibly see being traded because apparently if Donovan Mitchell re-signed before the offseason, he was supposed to get traded, right? Rich Paul was going to try to get him out of Cleveland. So is that still a thing, or you really think you can't play with Donovan Mitchell, or are you the problem? Right. Develop your game to where it makes sense to play with another ball-dominant star. And in today's NBA, there's not a lot of teams that you can go to where there's not going to be guys that also have the ball in their hands a lot. So it's either you be better than what Donovan Mitchell is, or you get better in your role and be that secondary ball handler. And I think the latter would be easier for him to do.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you. Cleveland, it seems like there's 3 guys that their season, it's in the fate of their hands here. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if these guys can do it.
For sure. Now,
your favorite team, Jared.
No, see, I didn't even want to.
When I didn't even purposely leave this one to you, but I'm happy I did.
I felt like this. I thought this was intentional. When Dante set up this rundown, he knows I don't mess with the Clippers like that, but he made me do them anyway. So whatever.
Hey,
but
it all worked out, right? Unintentional, but I'm happy that it worked out this way.
Sure. So on to that other team out in LA that finally got the hell up out of Staples or crypto, whatever the hell you want to call it.
They're giving out rings. Did you see that? Clipper players are finally going to get their first rings. Harden's going to get his first ring. Unbelievable. So proud of him.
Give them motherfuckers a t-shirt and keep it pushing. Anyway, the keys for them. My number one here, and it's so important since Paul George is gone, right? Establish James Harden and Kawhi Leonard as a top 5 duo. Now, they're old. It's going to be what everybody says.
I was going to say, I feel like that's the problem number one. Age.
They're out of juice and all this other things, but I think what's important to remember here is that age at this point in the NBA really doesn't mean a whole lot to me at the moment. Because LeBron James is about to turn 40 this season. That's still a top 5 player. Kevin Durant is also about to be 36, 37, still plays like a top 5 player. Steph Curry. We just saw all 3 of these guys be the best 3 players on Team USA amongst Anthony Edwards, amongst Devin Booker, amongst AD, Bam, like all these other superstar players, right? And those are the 3 best guys. So Kawhi Leonard, we know what he is when healthy. Like this guy is still like in the mold of, hey, I can sneak him to the top 7 if I really want to, or if I'm good, if I can play in the postseason. That's what it really counts.
Could, yeah.
And James Harden took a diminished role to adjust to this team since it had Paul George last season. Now with PG gone. Yeah, no Russell Westbrook either this year. So PG and Russ gone, you get to kind of, be this Philadelphia James who, you might want to shit on them guys, but he averaged 21 and 10 alongside the MVP.
It's not bad.
So
not bad at all.
Let's see what they do if those 2 guys can stay healthy. I think actually showcase themselves, and Ty Lue is a genius, so I'm sure he'll figure it out. I kept saying this in point number 1, and this is definitely point number 2. We could say it for every team, but it's probably even more so true for the Clippers, is staying healthy. I just pulled up something while you were going on a little bit, and Kawhi played in 68 games this past season. That is his most games.
That's actually pretty good.
That's his most games since 2017.
Yeah, I believe it.
Every other season, 52 again, 57. He missed a year with the ACL. He played in 60 and then 9. So
tough.
It's been a rough
track record.
Not at all. It's been very rough for Kawhi to stay on the floor, especially come postseason time, which I don't have the stats for that, but I'm pretty sure he's missed out on like maybe 2 of the last 4 playoff series.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. So staying healthy, guys, is huge for them. And then develop your young players or go get younger talent is what I put for the last point. Because, we're not super crazy about Terrence Mann or we're not super high on guys like Amir Coffey, but these are going to be rotational players that are still young-ish right now to where they could possibly or hope to be molded into something more. But you also
And you
have
have
to
to
be
think
ready.
towards the future too.
Exactly. Like you
You
have to be
can't get
ready.
stuck. You can't get stuck with Harden and Kawhi and expect the world. You got to prepare yourself.
Exactly. Like take some experience. You got Bones Highland on the roster too. Like just take some experiments, right? Like see what you can go get if there's a piece on the table for you to move to go get a younger piece, especially if the season's kind of tanking a little bit. And you could kind of tell that, hey, we might not make the postseason. I think they probably will. I'm thinking they could or they should.
They should. I think they should.
So, I mean, just I think actually developing the things that are in place right now and not hinging your future to two guys that are 32 plus, it'd be a smart thing to do. So, it's my
Yeah.
theory.
All right. So, I mean, I'm with you. The young players getting younger talent is key because, yes, you have two guys on your roster right now that will keep you competitive, that can make you a playoff team, right? Um, but I don't think you really should put all your eggs into that basket, especially knowing the history of Mr. Kawhi Leonard. We just mentioned how many games he's missed and stuff like that. And also at this point in their careers, I mean, more James Harden than Kawhi, don't really think there's much trade value there. I don't think if they went out and tried to dish out these guys, sell them to a team, they're going to get too much in return. Maybe Kawhi is still, I know with his injury history, but name value, maybe he can, rack up you a few first round picks, but I wouldn't really count on it. So really kind of going after those young guys, setting your future up is they need to start doing that. Staying healthy, don't really need to harp on that. That's just a fact. Harden and Kawhi is a top 5 duo. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's not something I'm also going to put too much stock in. Um, they should make the playoffs this year, but at the same time, seeing how competitive that West is, I think it's going to be very hard. They would have to be like that Philly Harden and that old Kawhi that they can count on to get you 25 plus a night. Like that's what you need out of both of them for them to be considered a top 5 duo potentially.
I think it's
Will
doable.
that happen? I'm not saying no. Crazier things have happened. I don't know if I want to count on that.
I don't know if I'd count on it. But again, this
That's
is
what needs to
about
happen.
what needs to happen for these
Right.
guys to be contenders. These guys need to be.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you. I think that they could slide into the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed, maybe a 6, but I don't know how much further they can go. I don't know if they're built to go far, but we'll see. We'll see. Who knows?
It's
Who knows
there. It's in the tank. It's in the tank somewhere. But
it's somewhere. It's somewhere.
let's see what happens.
Okay, let's talk about another team out west.
Please.
The 2023 NBA champions, Denver Nuggets. The 3 things I have for them to be back in the championship picture to be 2025 NBA champions is Russell Westbrook needs to be a perfect fit, or he is a perfect fit for the Nuggets. We've talked about this before, what we think Westbrook can be on the Nuggets, and I'm a little weary about it. I don't know what his role will look like in Denver. Obviously he's going to be coming off the bench. He could be a starter if there are people out. They want to try different lineups, whatever. How is he going to look with that second unit? How is he going to look next to guys like Jamal, Jokic, Porter, Gordon, all that? I think it could be a really good fit, but I also, at Westbrook's age, I don't know if it might not be anything that'll move the needle in Denver. So but I believe if it does, if he is a really good second unit piece, then that could drive them to being back in the NBA Finals. Next one I have is Jamal Murray finally makes the All-Star team. He has been avoiding it his whole career. He's talented enough to do it. Obviously, the West is stacked.
He's been avoiding it.
He's been avoiding it. He's been going around it, but the West is stacked. It's kind of hard for especially a guard to make the All-Star team. But if he has that type of season, I think that translates over into the postseason. I think they can find their way right back into the NBA Finals because when Jamal Murray is playing at a high level, especially in the postseason, it translates well for the Nuggets. So we'll see if he can do that next season. And then the last one I have here is that the young guys step up. They lost a few key rotational players this past year. Again, So I think it's time for them. And they do this, so like they try to rely on some of these younger guys that may not have gotten much minutes the year before, but kind of throwing them in there. Christian, he went to, what's his name?
Brown?
Brown. Christian Brown. I think he's a guy that they'll be looking, to step up, fill in those bench minutes and stuff. They have a few other guys, a few younger guys. I'm gonna look up.
Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson
Yep.
should have a good impact for them this year.
Dario Saric, they did get him, but not. He's not that young. But yeah, they have a few guys that I think that they're going to need to rely on because of losing some key pieces. They got Westbrook too, obviously, to help out there. But I think these guys step up, take over these bench roles. I think that it can translate well, and that'll make up for the pieces that they lost.
Yeah. Yeah, like this, I think it's even more important for your first point for Russ to kind of figure things out because this is your last chance, man. I think we're in a phase of where we're going to see Russell Westbrook probably be blackballed out of the league, like how we saw for Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, DeMarcus Cousins, and all those guys that are Hall of Fame caliber talents, but couldn't find a way onto another team. So Russ,
Right.
Please, for the love of God and for the love of your career, figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
Figure out how to, embrace his bench role because apparently he still didn't do a great job of doing that in LA. So please.
I want to see him go out on a high note.
Yes.
He's a guy that I've always wanted to see, win a ring, do, just a little like cherry on top of his NBA career.
Even if he doesn't win a chip. Even if he doesn't win a chip, I don't want to see another really good player not be able to really go out on their own terms.
Sure, that too.
That's what it is. Okay, so I like the first one. The second one, I've just come to accept that Jamal Murray is probably going to be one of those guys that might not make an all-star team.
He's only getting older.
Yeah, it's not because he's not talented enough. The West is stacked, like you mentioned, but he's just not a regular season performer. Unless he's playing the Lakers or it's postseason basketball, that's the only time I see Jamal Murray actually, get out his gamer chair like in that meme and stuff. I don't really see Jamal Murray wanting to take this step up. Or not, it's not even that. I just think he doesn't play that well in the regular season. He's very much an average to above average player in the regular season to great player come postseason. He's like Jimmy Butler.
He steps up when it matters the most.
Exactly.
What's more valuable, rings or all-star appearances?
I mean, all-star appearances sometimes get you paid more than the ring, depending on what your contract clause has. But
he has gotten paid a pretty penny, though, in his career.
Obviously, you want to win a championship. So the all-star thing, I don't think it's necessary. But, hey, if he does, that would be great because I have a bad, lasting memory of my mind that he kind of looked bad in that Minnesota series. He had 1 or 2 good games in that 7-game series this past playoffs. And then the Olympics, I'm really thinking that him and SGA are going to take over. They're going to be Canada's two-headed monster, the guards. He averaged 6 points.
He didn't hold his own.
So Jamal Murray, I don't really know what you do, but come postseason time, you better be ready to get up out that bed, pull up your bootstraps, and go get crazy. Lastly, the young guys, I think everything really does center on Christian Brown and Peyton Watson. I said again when you were talking about they lost more role players because, season ago they let Bruce Brown and Jeff Green walk.
Yeah.
Now this past offseason, KCP and Reggie Jackson are out the door. It's okay, we're just letting role players
letting them go. Just letting them walk.
Yeah, they didn't have a major impact on us. Yeah, we don't need anything in return. We could just no, these guys were important pieces. So Christian Brown and Peyton Watson are on, rookie deals to where they have the financial flexibility. They're definitely going to need to play. They're going to need to be the best Bruce Brown and the best Jeff Green they can be. I don't even know. Just super great role players in their respective roles. I hope they knock it out of the park for the Nuggets championship window because it's not closing because you have the best player in the world, but it is getting very.
It's not as big as it was a few years ago.
You're not the best team in the West anymore, possibly. So
I don't think teams are as scared of them anymore either.
No, now I'm just scared of Jokic. If
You're scared of one player.
yeah.
But if you let him do his thing and just contain everyone else, then you don't have to be scared of a few young guys in Russell Westbrook. So
You gotta chew.
no disrespect. No disrespect.
Now, on to the team that they beat in the NBA Finals here. Let's talk Miami Heat basketball.
A lot of connections here. I didn't really.
It's just maybe we're just that great, man. Like we did this last week too. It just kind of flowed naturally.
That's gotta be what it is.
But for the Heat here, number one, I need to see some big steps from Tyler Hero, man. Like this is a guy that has been in trade rumors season after season. Show them that you're not tradable. Show them that you like. He vents on Twitter about how the rumors are blah blah blah. They're whatever, and he doesn't care. Or I'll go play where I go play. You wouldn't even be these rumors if you just show up and actually step up. Right. Like this kind of reminds me of Jaylen Brown's situation. Every single offseason in the past before winning the title, right? Man, we got to trade this guy for KD. Maybe James Harden's a better fit here, or whatever other star they would consider moving him for. He won a title, won a Finals MVP. None of that talk even matters anymore. I'm in Boston until I feel like not being here. That's what it is now. So, Tyler Hero, I'm not saying he's Jaylen Brown, but what I am saying is that this should be a 20-plus point scorer easily. Hell, I think he should
score on this team.
He should be. Yeah. Again, going into this next season, this is the guy that should be averaging 25 plus, have a Most Improved Player of the Year type of season. That's what I want from Tyler Hero. Secondly, I put this in bold because I'm really
I was reading this and I was like, I don't know if this was he meant to do this or not.
It was intentional. Don't be afraid to accept a rebuild or a retool, rather. Pat Riley and the rest of this organization, Mickey Arison, man, God loves Mickey Arison, the owner of the Heat, man. You guys have been mid for the past. Like, I get you've been to 2 NBA Finals in this decade.
Appearances, but
they're not
finals appearances that weren't expected, and
they're not good.
Not lucky, but Cinderella stories.
These the teams that they have are get it out the mud, blue collar, lunch pail kind of guys. I love Jimmy Butler. I love Bam. I love Eric Spoelstra. Like probably one of my favorite coaches in the league. Probably the best coach in the league. Everything the Heat culture, I embrace it. I love it. I'd love to work out with the Heat. Shit, why not? But the talent, you don't have a whole lot of that. There's always this mindset of we're gonna do less with more, or do more with less. Sorry, we're gonna do more with less. And Jimmy and Bam and have carried them to 2 NBA Finals, and they weren't favored in either one because they were outmatched in terms of talent and depth. Like I get they create these players and build them up. Max Strus ends up getting paid to go to Cleveland. Gabe Vincent gets a deal. Caleb Martin, and all these guys leave and get more money somewhere else, and you got to start over the process. Dude, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet, man, and just understand, this is where you're at. Move somebody. Jaime Jaquez. This is a guy that's probably going to be in trade rumors. Maybe you can get, I don't know, a Zach LaVine or one of these other players that might be able to push you into contention. I think at this point now, either you take a risk and see if you can get it, or you take a step back and just accept that we're not going to be good. Move on from Jimmy.
Because the East is the weaker conference, but at the same time, I don't think that they don't stack up to the top teams in the East. They don't.
No, the Heat could be in the same exact.
You'll have those fans, those Heat fans that are like, "Oh, just wait to the postseason, wait for playoff, Jimmy."
You got to get there. And I don't know.
That's gotten you nowhere the last few years. So yes, you've made the finals. I'll give you that, but it doesn't translate to anything. So
I'm glad that you understand why it's in bold. Probably.
For sure. I mean, yeah.
Lastly, here the last point, it needs to be a big year from Scary Terry. He leaves Charlotte. Man, that was the coolest guy to interview. By the way, man, shout out to Terry Rozier when he was here in Charlotte.
Shout out to Scary Terry.
But he leaves Charlotte, gets to Miami, is expected to feel that we need another perimeter scorer kind of role because. Yeah, their offense was very dry before he got there. And Tyler Hero was missing time because he was hurt with, I don't even remember what was going on with him. But you have Terry Rozier in place now. full season in the Heat jersey. He loves Miami, wanted to play there if he was traded anywhere else. So step up. Like, yeah, I still think Tyler Hero should be the leading scorer, but Terry Rozier definitely capable of averaging 20 plus himself alongside Jimmy and Bam and Tyler Hero. That's not a bad four. And then I know they have Kel'el Ware, that center from Indiana that I love so much that I really think is going to be their starting center. So Bam could play his natural four position. Like, the Heat have the right stuff and they have the right pieces, but they're not good enough to contend with, the three teams. We're thinking about a three-headed monster, and your Celtics, the Sixers, and the Knicks. Those are the three teams at the top, and I don't think the Heat really. They don't have the right stuff yet. I don't think it's 7-game series. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they do have some bigger name players, but I don't think it is good enough. And also, you consider, the mileage on them as well. Like, playoff Jimmy is a thing, that's true, but he's been doing this for years, and at some point, it doesn't burn out. And health also. I mean, Tyler Hero was hurt during the playoffs last year against the Celtics.
Terry Rozier with the neck.
Terry Rozier, I think he was like. I forget who it was. The quote was like paraphrasing here, but
that was their free agency signing.
He was their free agency signing. They traded for him, but this was their like big move this offseason. So I do think that they should have expectations for Rozier. Has games underneath his belt for Miami, but now he's going into the season's training camp as a member of the Heat. Expectations are going to be high for him. Tyler Hero, I couldn't agree more. He needs to really step up. Stop talking. Prove it on the court. He's talented enough to be putting up 20, 25 a game, and the Heat need him to do that if they want to be competitive. And, man, I mean, if they got to do it, they got to accept a rebuild or a retool. As a Celtics fan, I would love to see that team break up. But, it is true.
There's still a little bit of fear in your heart, just a little bit.
I mean, naturally. I mean, even last year's playoffs without Jimmy Butler, I was just, I couldn't be remiss. I mean, I was getting just PTSD from all the series for sure, especially that game 2 where they hit their franchise record in playoff threes. Like, come on, yeah. So of course, there's always going to be that fear there. But I mean, at some point, I mean, Jimmy Butler is as competitive as anyone. Like, is he going to want to stay in Miami? Does he want to grind it out? But they're not going to be good enough. Questions need to be answered, and the answers to those questions could lead to a complete rebuild. So something to keep an eye on. All right.
When you discover a new bench-worthy show or a song that you bump on repeat, and you have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is. That's kind of what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there's no way you can keep it to yourself. There's not really a whole lot of things of value that you can actually buy with $15. If anything, most of it probably goes to something food related. So why not put it on a phone plan? With it, I was able to put my friends and family on and keep in contact with them constantly. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and make the switch to Mint Mobile. The squad can now experience high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network for only $15 a month. Best part is, you don't have to start from scratch whenever switching. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and skip the hassle with Mint Mobile's deal. To get this new customer offer and your new premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/courtside. That's mintmobile.com/courtside. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/courtside. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on a limited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Going out west here, I have the Sacramento Kings, and the 3 things I have. The first one, Sabonis is the triple-double king again. Last year led the league in triple-doubles. Was going back and forth, neck and neck with Jokic, but if Domantas Sabonis continues to, be that player, that glue guy that does a little bit of everything for the Kings, keeps them in the games with his scoring, passing, able to get rebounds all over the place. I think one of the better rebounders, if not the best in the league as well. So continuing to be dominant on all three fronts there, I think is essential for them. Next one I have is DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox are the perfect duo. This team could score a lot of points this year. DeMar DeRozan is as good and consistent a scorer as anyone in the league still at his mid-30 age. Going to the Kings that have such a high scoring offense, they run and gun. I think Fox and DeRozan could be great together. Sabonis as well, making their big three. So I think that'll be an exciting team to watch. I'm excited to watch them on League Pass this year. Follow along with them. But I think if they are a high-scoring duo, they complement each other well. I think that they could be back to being in the top end of the Western Conference like they were just 2 years ago. And then the third one, just to kind of, just to bring us back to reality here, is the West needs to fall apart. Yes, they could be a top 3-4 team in the West, but I think some things would have to happen there because there's a lot of good teams out West. The top three to come to mind are Denver, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota. That's the three-headed monster out West. And, of course, there's a few other teams.
No love for Dallas?
Listen, they made the finals. I'll give them that. But then you do have teams like Dallas, New Orleans, who just got DeJounte Murray, the Lakers, the Clippers, I mentioned that could still be a playoff team. There's a lot of – and I know there's teams I'm probably missing out. Houston can make a jump this year. San Antonio with Chris Paul, Wemby, who knows what they can do. Memphis, teams are just popping into my head now. I mean, there's just a lot of really loaded teams in the West. And the Kings, I do think that they are a playoff team. They're a team in that contention. But for them to be a top-seeded team in the West, a lot needs to fall apart. So,
yeah, taking it from the top here, Sabonis definitely another huge season. Definitely is in the prime of his career, so I'm expecting the 17 to 18 points a game, 10 to 15 boards. I think he led the league in rebounding this year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, be a top 10, top 15 guy in assists. Like you're the baby Jokic, man. So keep doing baby Jokic like things. That's always going to be important. DeRozan and Fox being the perfect duo. It's like I'm interested to see how this goes. Because the Kings definitely run a faster pace kind of offense. Like we see every single year when the offensive rating or efficiency rating is, it's a new record. They did it last 2 years ago. Austin broke it again this year. So DeMar's game kind of could slow that pace down just from I'm more of I can thrive at a half court kind of player. Yeah. Do an ISO kind of situation on the left wing or whatever. Like, I'm interested to see how that kind of works out, to be honest. And the last point here, a lot has to go right, and a lot for other teams has to go wrong for any team to kind of pop out. Like for Dallas, the way the matchups lined up this year, in 2024 for them, where they didn't have to see Denver, where they it was perfect. Like, because that's the one team I think that if they would have lined up with them at any point, I would have picked Denver to win that series.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked Dallas. Well. So, matchups kind of have to go according to plan. Somebody's hurt or whatever it is. We don't wish that upon anybody, but it definitely helps you get where you need to be. Absolutely. Yeah. But one point I want to add here before we go to the next team, that I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention this dude. Keegan Murray needs to have a breakout kind of year because there's still enough time for him to, get adjusted and figure out who he is. But adding in DeMar obviously takes away from the touches that he would get for the chances of growth that he could potentially have. So still finding a way to be effective and grow your game in this offense, whatever Mike Brown is going to draw up, is kind of interesting to see how that all kind of falls together.
Can he fit in as a fourth option? Can he be a really good fourth option? Because if he does and he plays his role perfectly, then that could go a long way for Sacramento.
Yeah, because I got to say, I'm not really enthralled with these power forwards that should probably be more threes playing the four, and that's what Keegan's going to do since Sabonis is the 5-man. Right. I'm not I get that's the new NBA and that's where we're trending, but it's kind of like
I'd imagine in my head Sabonis is a 4, Keegan is a 3. Yeah, I get that.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe they do run it that way. I don't know what's happening with Kevin Huerter either this year, so
true.
I don't know. We'll see. But sticking out west here, got the Houston Rockets up next year. And that's a team that I think we're both kind of excited to see how they do, honestly. So taking it from the top, Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün need to take all-star level leaps. Look,
Sure.
I think we could probably both agree that if there had to be a face of the franchise, it's definitely between one of these two guys. Jalen
Yes.
Green definitely wants that spotlight. Şengün kind of came from left field and kind of made it more assertive about him. We talked about Sabonis being a baby Jokic. Well,
You could say the same thing about this guy.
Şengün's a baby
Yeah.
Sabonis. Şengün's a baby Jokic as well. He has the footwork. He has the game. Dunked on Wemby last year, so he has that grit in him, the highlight plays and stuff. Like I love Şengün's game, but Jalen Green is an offensive microwave, man. Let's see if
He
he can
had
play.
that streak or that whatever he was averaging over 30 a game
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, like
He can
definitely
do it. He can light it up.
establish himself. Hey, I'm the number one option. Like run this through me. So glad he answered those questions last year. Number 2, I need them to figure out what young guys are actually a part of this core, like long term, because they have a lot. We talked about this in the past podcast episodes. They have a lot of young talent.
Yes, they
Like
do.
Reed Shepard, Jalen Green, Şengün,
Maybe
Amen Thompson.
too much young talent.
Yeah, Cam Whitmore. Like those are Jabari Smith. Those are 6. Tari Eason. These are a lot. These are 7 guys with only 5 starting spots, and a lot of them also play like the wing positions. Because Cam Whitmore
Right.
is another guy like that. I'm really like, hey, he could be a good piece on no matter where he goes.
Yeah.
Like a number 2 scoring option potentially in some places today. Like I really like Cam Whitmore's game, and Amen Thompson is Reed Shepard is like it's just a bunch of different guys that they got to figure out what schemes work. Ime Udoka definitely has his homework cut out for him. I hope he's been working hard this offseason to kind of find out where to implement guys and stuff and staying away from women. So it's a tall street. Yeah, please, God. And the third
It's a good thing going in Houston. All right, don't fuck it up.
Do not blow this. Don't blow this for me, man. I went to bat for you out there. Don't blow this for me.
Don't do it.
Lastly, though, I think you need to move on from Fred VanVleet soon. Like, I talked about these young guys needing to see where they fit.
Always not forget, but it's like always like Fred VanVleet, like, oh yeah, he is on the Rockets. You know what I mean?
It was just one of the. I feel like last offseason, Houston was like, hey, we just want to get somebody.
We have money. We have money to spend. Let's get a.
You get a car. You get a car. Like, they definitely look
Brooks for sure.
Yeah. Like, and I think Fred VanVleet is a good player, but for that contract, it's definitely going to be pretty hard to move him. I can't think of a team that would actually want
they'd
him.
have to attach something with it.
It has to be a young piece. That's why you see where my mind's going. You definitely string him along to one of these young possible stars that you're like, I don't think it's going to work, and go get a position that's necessary. Like, definitely you have center and 2 guard taken care of. At your point guard, you can have Reed Shepard or you can have Amen Thompson run it. Take your pick. Maybe you want to move on from Jabari Smith. Maybe you want to get another small forward. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that Houston could do to kind of position themselves along with these other young Western Conference teams that we're kind of looking at like, wow, like OKC could very much go to the finals next year. Minnesota can go to the finals. Dallas can go back, like, or whatever it is. They're on the same type of timeline as them if this young talent takes a major step up. And I think in order to really let them do that, to grow and flourish in the backcourt, I think Fred VanVleet got to get out of here. So that's my 3.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Fred VanVleet was like, at the time, get a veteran in there, get an older player, kind of keep you somewhat competitive. I think you do make moves like that. But
For sure.
It was never meant to be a long-lasting relationship. Everyone knew it was like a friends with benefits type of thing, and then you move on from it eventually. So I think we're getting to the point at the end of that relationship. I think that's not the worst thing. It's not the worst problem in the world to have a lot of young talent and trying to figure out what to do with them. Teams have that problem. Oklahoma City has a lot of young talent. They also have a lot of picks that they're going to have to deal with at some point.
Yep.
So it's like eventually, like, you have to face the reality of like, we probably can't keep all these guys. All these guys are going to want more opportunities and stuff like that. So you got to balance it out somehow. Obviously keeping some of these young guys, but also finding which ones you could put in trades to get key position pieces that, you can fill out the rest of the roster, some bigger name players, whatever it may be. Definitely think that maybe this season is this is the test. This is the trial run this season,
Yeah.
especially if they get rid of Fred VanVleet. I know they came close to making the playoffs last year, and hell, if it all works out, if the chemistry is there, I do think that they can be right back where they were last year. But this is another situation, kind of like with Orlando, where I don't think there's a rush here. You don't have to be like, we need to be competitive this year. We need to be competitive next year. Like, you have time. You have a ton of young guys. Figure out who works, who fits best with the system, whatever. Let this year happen, and then you go from there. I think that's kind of what it needs to be. And I think the two guys that should be the center of all of this, Green and Sengun, both those guys have been brought up in trade rumors. For star players, Kevin Durant, when they were talking about Houston might be interested, one of those two guys could have been packaged. I think that these two guys they try to build around, then try to trade, unless obviously there's an offer or a player that you really feel like will change the trajectory of your team and whatnot. But I think that these two guys should be the cornerstones of this franchise, and I also expect them to have those all-star level leaps as well. All right, my next team, I have the Brooklyn Nets. Here's the 3 points I have, Jerry. Tank, and you guessed it, tank. Yeah, I don't think that they should, need, or would do anything this year to get back to contention.
No.
They just suck. You know what they need to do? Give Cam Thomas 45 minutes a game. Let him do his thing. Let him have his magical season. Tank. Get a top pick this year's draft. You got your pick back. You have a few guys that you can still trade to get picks and shit. Load up. Get ready for the future. Start from scratch. Yeah, Brooklyn. No offense to any Brooklyn fans. If you're a real Brooklyn fan, you should be agreeing with me. Like, we should be on the same page here.
Yes.
Gun for the Charlotte Bobcat record. That's my advice.
Oh my God!
For that
please,
record.
please take that off of their hands, man.
You might not have to be that bad to secure the worst record in the league, but you get my point.
Yeah, nah. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to add to this other than just start getting your Cooper Flag jerseys ready, baby. It's time. Like,
absolutely.
That's all I can really say.
Yep.
This is a no-brainer. If they're contending for anything, it should be the number one pick. So, sorry, Adam Silver. This team needs to be shitty in order to push the league forward.
Listen, I know you're trying to push teams away from tanking and doing all these things, but I don't think you have a choice this year. I don't think you have a choice with some teams.
Yeah. On to the next team that should probably follow the Brooklyn Nets lead here. The Atlanta Hawks should also probably tank, but we'll get to that. Yeah. I think, first, you need to attempt to build around Trey. Instead of actually trying to tank properly, let's actually try to put some guys around this guy, because I don't think Trae Young gets enough love to actually being one of these, leading point guards in this generation. Where
he led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago.
It's not like they were super talented. John Collins was
not bad for a 6-foot point guard, or probably he's not 6 foot.
No, I'm 6 foot even. I've stood beside Trae Young. I can probably say that he's like a little underneath my chin there, like very much so. He's pretty short.
Taller than Trae Young. That's crazy. Gives a 26-year-old hope, Jerry. All right.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, it's definitely. We saw what they tried to do by bringing DeJounte Murray into there, and it gave me very much Portland Trailblazers, Damon CJ vibes, but just not.
It's good for what it is, but doesn't get you. That doesn't take you to the end goal of a championship.
No. Secondly, don't be afraid to pull the trigger on a trade. like you have to be able to move on.
You got to give it a shot, but you don't want to waste too much time on it.
Yeah. Like Trae Young, I gave him all his flowers. I really do think he is one of this generation's, probably point guide to some degree, except he can also pour in 25 plus points per game. It's like he's very good at what he does. And I think that he is going to be a top 5 to top 10 point guard at some point in this decade. He could be next season for all we know. So Trae Young's very talented, but maybe as the Hawks, you just know that you can't bring any marquee names to your organization without actually trading or moving on from Trae Young to get an abundance of picks. That's kind of like the only way I could see them kind of getting back to where they need to be. unless you want to trade Richard Say, who you just got, unless you want to trade Jalen Johnson, who just broke out. Like I think they should have got more off of that DeJounte Murray trade, by the
I
way.
agree.
So
I think they could have gotten more too.
there's not a lot of talent for Trey to work with out there in Atlanta. As good as I think the market could be, like just the market as a whole to actually foster and take care of a star, I just don't see it. So let's not be afraid to pull the trigger on Trey. And lastly here, your new star isn't who you just drafted. It's just like I mentioned in Jalen Johnson, who took that big step while Trey Young was actually out and played well and averaged like 17 and 8 and showed that, hey, man, took my little time off, let John Collins get some PT, play ahead of me for a little while, but I'm here to be this franchise face. And I think that's who they should kind of scope this thing around. I don't think it should be Richard Say quite yet. I don't even know what to expect out of him, to be honest. I was kind of shocked that he went number one. So I'm going to give the keys to Jalen Johnson and can kind of let him steer this ship with whatever young assets come along in a potential Trey Young trade.
Yeah, I think the Hawks are in a very weird situation right now because it's like you have a star player, but the drop off to the next best player is massive, and that's just not like I love Trey. I want to give Trey his flowers, so I think he's a great player. I think he is a top tier scorer and arguably the best passer in the league today. But I don't think he's just not the right guy. He's not like a LeBron James, right? Where LeBron James could lead a team of scrubs to a finals or something like that. He's a 6-foot point guard, and we don't even think he's 6 feet. He can only do so much. He can only carry a team so far. And just like between the first overall pick, it's like, again, like I don't have any expectations for him. I didn't know who he was before the draft. So it's like I don't know like how he's going to be as the new face or cornerstone of this franchise. Jalen Johnson seems to be the guy that would be the one you want to build around if you get rid of Trae Young, or unless they trade for someone that they get back with Trae Young, that could be the guy that they look to be the cornerstone, right? I'm in more of the camp of they need to trade Trae Young. I do agree that they should give it a shot, but I don't think if after 10, 20 games you see that this isn't going to work, I think you pull the trigger sooner rather than later. So, well, that's another team that's going to be interesting to watch next year because if he becomes available, there's going to be a handful of teams that can go after him that would want him. So
For sure.
all right, last team we have here, last one that I have is the Memphis Grizzlies, the team that I feel like everyone kind of forgot about because John Morant was out for basically all of last season. Missed the first 25 games due to a suspension, came back, and then got hurt, missed the rest of the season. So first one I have here is John Morant gets back to dominating the NBA. When he is healthy, he is one of the best point guards, one of the best guards in the league. Explosive, electric. He is a human highlight reel, must-see TV. That's the type of player he is.
Give me more. Come through the turnstiles to come see. Superstar, megastar.
He is he's who people pay to see when he's playing. You know what I mean? People are tuning in to watch him. I said when he got drafted, I said to my friends, give it 3 years. He is going to be a top-tier point guard in the NBA. 3 years went by. He was a top-tier point guard in the NBA. I take pride in thinking that John Morant was going to be that good. He just needs to stay healthy and stay out of stop doing stupid shit. Stop doing stupid shit. And the Grizzlies were a team that could have made the finals back in 2022. They were that good, and they were also very young. So they have a lot of pieces there. John Morant being the center of all of it, if he gets back to being who he was and better, because he's only going to be getting better, sky's the limit for this team. Next one I have is their first-round pick, Zach Edey. Has a dominant rookie season. I don't really know what to expect from him, to be completely honest with you. He is one of those players that, like, I'm not trying to compare, and I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but for some reason I get major, like, Jahlil Okafor vibes from Zach Edey, where, like, he was unbelievable in college, but, like, I don't know if his game, I don't know how it's going to translate to the NBA. He's big. He can play defense. He can play around the rim, whatever, but I don't know how it will translate to the NBA, to the Memphis Grizzlies. But if he comes out hot, has a fantastic rookie season, and he's that much of a game changer, that will be huge for them. And then the last one I have is potentially make a trade. You have a lot of pieces on the team. You have John Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson, Zach Edey, who I just mentioned, and a few other filler pieces. I don't have everyone's name in front of me.
G.G. Jackson, Brandon Clark. They got some guys.
They have a collective. They have a good group of players where I feel like if they feel like they're missing that one guy to put next to John Morant, Jaren Jackson's great. He won a Defensive Player of the Year. But at the same time, he is flawed in multiple ways where I feel like maybe they try to package a few guys. Desmond Bane can give you 20, 25 a night. Could be one of the best shooters in the league. But if you feel like there's someone out there that you could put next to John Morant that makes that much of a difference, you got some guys to work with here. So I don't think that's something that they have to do, but I definitely don't think it's something that they should shy away from if they feel like they can make their roster better and they have to get rid of someone.
Yeah, now for sure. I think for the most part, I love all of these, especially the first one. John Morant, motorcycle.
Oh,
Yeah.
someone's cruising.
John Morant is definitely my favorite player in the league today. Like when healthy, went out of the strip club, doing what he needs to do. This dude is definitely elite.
Oh, man.
I think he's going to show that, hey, I'm top 5. I'm a top 5 point guard in this league, and I'm here to stay, kind of thing. Give some pushback to these Luka and SGA fans that just are all up, lost in their sauce. So would love for Ja to get back to that. The Jahlil Okafor comparison is kind of hilarious. mainly, I really think Jahlil just got dealt a bad hand ending up in Philadelphia.
He went to Philadelphia, came in at the worst time, I feel like.
It was the process kind of Sam Hinkie era. So I think Jahlil was a victim and they wasted his talent.
Set up for failure.
Yeah, nothing. Nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid, and Jahlil Okafor should not all have been on the same team. Yeah, that didn't make any sense. So I'm hoping that Zach Edey could kind of thrive in this situation. And hey, I talked about Bam Adebayo being able to slide down to the 4 earlier. I think having Jaren Jackson play a natural 4 position, play that free safety on defense, it'll make
spread the floor too.
It'll make the team look a lot better. So hopefully Zach does stand out. And lastly, I think you always got to keep your head on a swivel if you're one of these teams that could be on the cusp. Like, we're not really sure what to expect out of these guys. Like, everybody's probably counting them out for the most part here. So I think making a deal if need be, don't be afraid to pull the trigger, Don't be afraid to move on from a young piece that if you can get a better one in return or a hard-hitting veteran in return, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know who would be available, but keep your head on a swivel. You never know.
You never know. But yeah, all right. Those are our 10 teams this week. Next week, we'll be back with the remaining 10 teams to fill out the 3 things, whatever we believe that those teams need to become contenders, to be competitive once again. So let's close it out. I know we had a few other small topics that we wanted to get into.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, we're at the 56-minute mark. We did
talk for a while. This is what I'll say. ESPN experts voted Victor Wembanyama to win Most Improved and Defensive Player of the Year next year. Maybe that's something we can talk about a little bit more next week too, because I'm sure the way that this is trending, they're going to have their votes revealed for every award. So maybe that's something we can talk about next week.
For sure.
Put in the comments if you think that's an accurate assessment that we believe Victor Wembanyama will be Most Improved or Defensive Player of the Year. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it next week because we do have the remaining teams I'm not saying they're all bottom of the barrel, but it might go a little quicker than some of the teams this week, but we'll get there. And that's closing out for episode 51. Be back here next week for episode 52, the 1-year mark, the 1-year anniversary of sitting courtside. We appreciate all your support as always, following along, supporting the channel here on YouTube and on audio platforms as well. So that leads me to my plugs. If you are here watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, check out all the other content on this channel, our shorts content, gamified content. Put in the comments what you think of the episode. Give us your lists, your things that you believe that these teams that we talked about today need to do to become contenders. If you're an audio-only listener, please make sure to give us a 5-star rating, review, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter or X if you want to be politically correct.
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, whatever the hell you want to call it. Look us up. You'll find us there. and we got to go play some games. So until next week's episode, peace.
Shubba!